All right, welcome everybody. We are live at HFMA in Denver. Another episode of Rev Cycle Unscripted. I'm with my friends, my crazy little friends here, Travis and Sean. It feels like a comedy act, maybe. Travis and Sean.
Should not be a comedy act, but yes.
No, that's really what
That's
you
the
want.
good thing.
That's
I
it.
never
No,
thought
it's-
about it.
Be famous or infamous, and sometimes the latter is okay.
We're very professional.
One of
it
you
will
is.
not be that.
One of you is.
Yes, that's Sean.
All right, Travis and Sean from Hyve Health.
Yes, not Hyve. We get that a little bit like grocery
Really?
store. Yeah,
Yeah,
get grocery
Hyve.
store
Grocery
all the
store.
time. There's a grocery store, Hyve.
Is that like a
H-Y.
West Coast thing? I don't know Hyve.
It's a Midwest.
So I think that's more of a Midwest.
Oh, I don't know. We don't have any Hyves in Michigan.
No, it's probably a good thing.
But that's funny, Hyve.
Mhm.
I get a lot of, for tarpon, I get a lot of tarpon. And I'm always like,
Fish,
is
nothing.
that a word somewhere that I don't know? Like great poop on,
But
not
There you go.
tarpon. How's tarpon going? I'm like, I don't know.
It's
I don't
just
know what
fine.
that is, but tarpon's going fine. I don't correct people that way. That's mean.
And so we get asked, is it Hyve? I'm like, no, just Hyve. Just get creative with I to
the
a Y.
collective Hyve.
Okay. And I want to ask a little bit about like what you guys have been doing. But first, I want to tell a story of how I met Travis.
Okay, now see, this is like, you should just cut then. I mean, that's...
No, this is the best part. This is the best part. I didn't know I was going to do this, but now I'm looking at you. I'm like, I have to tell people. Somehow Travis gets a meeting with me. I'm not like impossible to get a hold of. But this is back in like 2019, right? 2019. And I'm doing one of my forums, actually in Denver. Actually, now that I think about it, here in Denver. Do you remember this? It was the last one we did before.
You know who you made the introduction?
No,
Sean.
that God.
The email, we found
Okay, so I get to. Well,
it's my fault.
now mind you, I get some crazies. So
From your
from
network?
just people, they wanted me to and I'm always like, okay, maybe like I gotta test it out a little bit. Does someone know this person? So whatever. Sean, who I trust implicitly,
used to.
he says to me, he's like, can you meet with them? The hard part, to be fair to Travis, the hard part is it's like right before my event. And so like I'm already like stressed a little, I'm stressed. I'm like, I'm not in the best headspace to be able to like take in. And I meet with you and
Yes.
someone else.
Tim. Yes, Tim.
Tim.
This. Yes.
And apologize to Tim for me when you see him. That I was like, I literally thought, these guys are insane. Like, I don't even know what they're talking about right now. And hopefully I wasn't too rude, but I
No.
was like, I just don't know if this is going to go anywhere.
I get that a lot.
But some of those were the best ideas, right? And my whole career, I think the times where I've had something where I thought, this is gold, and everyone tells you it's gold, those never seem to work. But when someone tells me it's not good, because I had several friends tell me the RCM Leaders Forum, like, I don't know where that goes. I don't think that's a thing.
Just keep.
And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I feel like it's, but kudos to you. Just keep going.
Oh, well, thanks.
So tell people what you're doing.
So what we're doing, Hyve,
This is not a Hyve sales
No,
pitch,
no,
but I do think it's important.
I'll contain myself.
This is gonna be
Hyve is really,
buzzer like electric buzzer.
let's get
Jolt him a little bit once in a while. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's good. Hyve is trying to get the providers of this industry to unite and aggregate their data. I mean, then there's a lot of different use cases in that, but at the end of the day,
Primary against payers.
yes. I mean, I call ourselves a data arms dealer for providers
Love this.
that says, that the payers already have all the information because providers are sending it to them on every single claim.
Right.
They're controlling the remits back, and providers are not aggregating the information that comes back. They're just siloing it. And, as you roam around the floor here, you see AI and machine learning and all these other things. It's like, but if I'm going to go just deploy it on the life of Ben or the life of Sean, that's not meaningful as the life of Ben and Sean combined.
It's not power.
No, it's not at all. Right. So the Hyve as a collective is really the thesis that says hospitals unite, you're going to learn from each other, and you're going to be able to leverage that information way better than you are with your own individual data today.
Right. Would you say like, I was interested when you said that because I was thinking like, well, 1 + 1 in this case probably still equals 2. But 500 plus another 500 does not equal 1,000.
That's
Like,
exactly
That's correct.
Or 20, 100,000.
Yes.
Because you actually do need a fair amount of like scale. I don't know, scale's the right word? Scale in the
Yeah.
data? I don't know. Is that that's a,
Well, I mean, a lot of people want to
You
talk
need
about
enough data.
statistical,
Trends.
statistical relevance. And like,
Okay.
you go read any article,
right?
it's like, it's less than 3 to 5% is almost the norm of which this industry makes decisions on. Like, if you go look,
That's crazy.
and I think the best I've seen is probably like 15%. So
A year ago,
yeah. And like, you get 15% of the information that's out there. You feel like that's, good enough. And like, there's no industry where, not even statistically is that relevant.
Right. And you got like a spreadsheet jockey or two in the managed care department making a decision.
Yeah. And or the other part of it's the volume of data that you need. But I think the other most important part, it's the latency. Like a lot of the articles you see written about denial behaviors and patterns talk about what was done last year. And we're trying to say that should be a conversation based off what happened last month. And we need to stop using old, publicly available data and say, let's go harvest data directly from providers and make it as current as possible.
So what's the biggest thing you think like right now is like what are payers doing the worst? What's the worst thing they're doing?
Let Sean take that.
our conversations recently have been around downcoding. So we can start mining that data and seeing those trends and saying, hey, not only are they downcoding, sometimes they're not telling you, or if they're telling you, they're not using the code set that they're supposed to use.
Like, give
So
me
we're
a specific example of like what's something that's happening.
ED downcoding. We're getting a lot of pushback. Or
So they put a level, hospital census a level 4,
99285, they put in a 99284.
and they're like, we're not paying that. We're paying
Not
at a
paying.
level 3.
They don't put the CARC and RARC code that is expected on that remit to tell the provider they're doing that.
So it might just like the system might just process the payment, and the rest is contractualized.
Yep.
So you don't actually even catch the fact that it's like happening.
Nope.
So we're getting more and more that the more hospitals we onboard, the more questions we get about behavior of those payers. And is that normal? Is that not normal? Are they telling you? Are they not telling you?
Like
That's
an
crazy.
example, like Humana, their data looks worse because they're being more transparent. They're being more honest that we're downcoding you, but we're using the codes to tell you that we
Or
are.
appropriately like flagging it so that you know it's happening.
Yes. Whereas you take any of the other payers, it's nowhere near the level, and it's forcing providers to have to go find the needle in the haystack.
So how do they do that though? It's like, is there a way to, I guess if you're not, would a contract, I'm just thinking this, I was thinking out loud, I've been on an ops a while too, so don't make fun of me. Would a contract modeling, like if you do contract modeling right, does that pick it up because there's a variance? Or does it not pick it up?
Well,
Is this a good question or no?
And it's a very good
it's a
question.
good question.
I'm actually not sure. 'Cause I've been out of the game for a while,
Yeah.
so.
it's a very good question. That is the holy grail too. Is it a good contract modeler? Is it actually estimating the correct reimbursement? And is that getting that shortfall? We only want to use the payer's behavior and the payer's language and the payer's data to tell that story. So we're not going to use a contract modeling to tell them when it's underpayment. We're going to use the data that came back from the payer.
A lot of providers approach this as an underpayment issue, right? I billed you at an ED level 4, 99284, and I got paid 99283 rate. And so they look at that as an underpayment because I billed it at a 4, but I got paid as a 3. The reality is like, and we saw this from an example we just got from a customer that this week. I think it was
in 22 versus,
where they bill out one code. It's like you submitted a 99284 on the claim, and on the remit, it's actually showing like they changed the claim code, the procedure code, to a 99283. And then they didn't say that it was a downcoding. Like, so they're actually changing the code in the remit from what was submitted on the claim.
So how's that possible?
It shouldn't be possible. You shouldn't, payers should not be allowed to change.
Right. Even if you're going to say you're not going to pay that, you in theory should do a denial of some sort.
You should.
Or you should.
And some
you can't
do.
change it, right?
Yeah. No. And that's why.
Is there anything in the software, like, I'm using Epic Cerner and kind of the same languages, that would catch that? That doesn't even feel like you'd have something built to catch the change and the code coming back.
Well, I think that.
I know we're talking technical, but I honestly am like.
Well, I think this is where part of the analysis, and even from where if we're just looking at claims remits and we're trying to align them, I think maybe one of the metrics is to say, start doing a code by code. We see all the codes on the claim are equal to all the codes on the remit.
Because you see it big. My next question was like, how are you guys seeing this? But you're seeing it because you're seeing the claims and you're seeing what came back, and you're saying these two don't match up. They changed it.
Yeah, that's our potential. Right now, we're looking for 3 specific CARC codes that designate we downcoded you. And it's the absence of those codes, which is the most alarming.
Yes, this started as a very broad metric. Oh, let's try to track downcoding.
Sure.
Behavior.
Yeah.
So we have a percentage.
But you were at the time you're using CARC and RARC to do it.
We're using 3 codes that the industry thinks the payer should use for downcoding.
And how did you figure out that this other thing was happening?
A client came to us and said, hey, we saw this. Do you see the same thing? And we're like, nope. And so we're not seeing those 3 codes being used. So they went to their claim system and said, look for this N22. They actually contacted the payer. And the payer said, oh, we're absolutely using this right code. And they were absolutely not using that. So
you don't know how big a problem this is yet.
I think it's a huge problem that's not been identified. I mean, it's because the payers think that they're doing it, and the data is suggesting that they're not.
Definitely not using the same language or the language that they should, the codes that they should.
That's fascinating. I've never heard that before.
No, I think it's a huge deal. And you look at it, I mean, ED is just one of these that becomes really easy because you have a smaller subset of codes that you're looking at.
Sure.
Just ED level codes. But then you start to see like some of the bigger dollar values come from inpatient then. So like if you think about it, like
I can't even
you're submitting a with complications or with major complications, and they're like, no, it's without complications. I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars in those cases. And so the industry approaches downcoding today as an underpayment analysis, which is a lot more overhead, where it should be a very transactional. There are 3 codes, maybe 4 now, that should identify that this is happening, and it should be very black and white.
And you could appeal it, I guess, if you felt like it was, but you don't even know.
Right.
So you might catch it underpayments, but you might not. But then you're paying somebody to do underpayments, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Contingency,
yeah. The hand is in the till at that point. It's like, well, no one is telling.
I like the hand in the till.
But that's like a huge issue today. I mean, and it's the reason why I think it's bigger than what people think is because of just how they approach it. I mean, this like expected reimbursement, I always say, is like the Bigfoot of healthcare, right? No one ever sees it, and very few providers actually have the capacity or the technology to model it, to set the bar that, oh, we should be getting paid X on this.
No, I agree. It's always been like you would think you should be able. I taught Rev Cycle 101 recently, to a bunch of people, and it was like, someone asked a question. Well, you should be able to add this number to gross, like to get to gross revenue. Like you should be able to, because I went through the net revenue, contractuals and denials, and I was like, I know you should be able to, but like, there's enough nuances that move around, right?
Right.
I don't know if you guys remember. You probably do, but like the old accretive days, we used this like best possible to do the way that they would charge. Because remember, it was like at the time it was like % of revenue lift. Well, it's brilliant, right? At the time I was like, this is brilliant. Percent of revenue lift, it's a no-brainer for a health system, right? Well, then you get into it and you're like, well, a 1% revenue lift on a $10 billion organization is a crap ton of money. And so what we had to start proving is like, well, just because there's so many things that can variable can change, right? Like that can alter like what you say, like this baseline period versus other period. So we bought this company, was really smart guys, this company, but it was trying to do this model of like, what's the best possible payment on every single account? And you know how freaking hard this was?
Oh, it's hard. I've done that.
It's so hard. It's actually, it's like not hard. It's impossible. And you could get to like 99.9%, but that 0.1% could mean the difference of them paying a $20 million bill versus like a $15 million bill. Yeah. And they're not going to do it. And we had to do this exercise. Anyone who's creative is going to cringe when they hear this. That Mary used to call comb the dog.
Comb the dog?
Yes. You had to comb the dog because you had to look for like fleas, right? You had to look for the little ones that are like causing the problem. So we do account reviews, and I remember doing account reviews on the weekends, looking at accounts, trying to find these things that are causing variances, right?
Well, I mean, that's really what I think we're trying to leverage today is like, one, don't just look at your individual hospital's experience with an issue, right? Be able to step back and have the forest versus the trees to say, is our experience, different than that of our peers? And that's where we started to see, the what I call the me versus the we. Is this really a problem with us, or is it something that's systemic, either within the state or across the industry? But you can only look at that from the forest perspective, that aggregate experience.
That's so true. So what do you guys think you're going to, like, I don't know, fast forward a couple of years, you already have 1,000 or a couple thousand hospitals in your system, right?
Almost 1,000.
Putting data in.
Yep. In 2 years, we've made tremendous progress, and it's all at the expense of the payers and their behavior. I mean, that's what's driving this. I mean, you think about payer behavior, no one's really talked about this until the last 2 or 3 years, and then maybe kind of coming out of COVID and started seeing some of this. We always talked about denials. We talked about slow pay, but I think these back office conversations that were happening with managed care and payers are now becoming, kind of public square conversations, front page type of things.
Yes, for various reasons.
Yes.
But I won't go into.
Yeah.
But where do you guys see it a couple of years from now? Like, where do you want to get to so that, like, if I'm a health system, then I'm given data, like, what am I getting? What's your dream of like how they're using it?
I think providers need to understand that there is a lot of value in collectively aggregating their data for their own purposes, right? Because I think some providers are selling their data, clearinghouses are selling data, payers are selling data, which then when providers turn around and need data, they're getting antiquated data and they're having to pay for it. And then you don't know where it came from. And to say, but if you're able to get it, source it from yourselves collectively, there's so much more you can do with that and learn from it. Like for us, in the concept of the payer scorecard, I think is really the tip of the iceberg.
Sure. Because
it's starting to set a stage and set expectations that this type of information is nowhere. But then once you present that, I kind of use the compass versus a GPS analogy. Like there's so much information that people want to drill down into that the payer scorecard, isn't necessarily designed to do. So for us, it's trying to create a suite of platforms that really mines that data for them.
Right. My initial thought is, one of these days, you guys are going to get used as in a courtroom as the way to prove their case.
We've already, there's been.
It hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen. Because because as more and more of these providers are suing,
it's being contentious out there, right?
Right. So I would imagine that your data would be used to prove out like, hey, this is like where they're at compared to everybody else. Like this is.
We do get that some already, and we have to educate what those metrics mean. Here's the real denominator. Here's all the caveats. As long as you know all these things, go forward with your messaging, with your data, with your presentation, with your negotiation tactic. But there's a lot of complexity around those metrics.
Sure.
It's back to realizing that we can see something, we can see bigger, broader patterns instead of just our own individual experience. And then whether it's a hospital or a health system that wants to go use that in their negotiation, or all of a sudden they start having, public debates, through the newspaper and articles about it, to really another big use case for us is out of the state hospital associations and any advocacy, right? That says like, well, we're advocating on behalf of all of our members. And we've got a number of state hospital associations who are saying, this is what the data is saying. And then they're approaching and the payers with that. And, the payers will say, oh yeah, we do this. I'm like, no, it's not in your data. Which one of the things that has been an aha moment for me in the last year is I think I'm finally starting to understand why hospitals and payers are constantly talking past each other. Is that the payers look at the provider through the lens of the remit, right? Because they're like, here's 835, this is how I see it. You sent me a claim, this is my response to you, and that's how I view you. But the provider, they get that remit and it gets ingested into the patient accounting system. And all of a sudden there's like a transformation to where almost the providers see things through their claim that they sent out. And all of a sudden payers are looking at the remit, providers are looking at the claims, and they're not really reconciling those. And they don't see the same issues. And it's been coming to a head more and more because providers and payers are coming together with a completely different, it's apples and oranges at that point.
Don't forget the providers are using EMRs and outsourcing companies, and that's putting a layer in between that too, right?
Sure.
There are metrics.
But they're doing the same thing on the other side. They're using vendors, Cotivity and others to like do a bunch of stuff. And they're not always on the same systems, even though we think they are, right? They bought 5 payer plans and they are different systems.
No,
so
it's
it
true.
would make sense that we like on both sides probably talking. I think it's a great point, Travis, of like just being like, they're talking about one thing and then like, well, we don't see that in our system. It's like, well, yeah, but I don't know what your system's like. They've never been on this side,
Right. Yeah, we go through this data validation process where providers, believe that they've got, all these volumes with certain payers. And it's like, but understand, like you're not really tracking or have ease of visibility into, you may have sent it out under Humana, but we can show you that patient ultimately got paid through Blue Cross. And like, there's probably a denial that came in that says, this isn't my patient. And they somehow rebuild it and it went somewhere else and they lose track of that. And so when they want to push back on the payers, like use the payers' data then, right? I mean, you're turning the microscope around. And I think that's what's highlighting some of this.
Right.
And
it's really complex. More complex than I thought too. What goes at, what comes in, and
do you guys do capturing any like audits? Like, does that get captured in any of your data, or is that like still a blind spot?
Because those come in as certain codes.
I'm going to say we think, and then you change it to maybe, which I don't know if that's better.
Maybe we think.
Maybe we think. We think maybe.
Well, I just think it still feels to me like
The payers
Kevin has a little company
communicating
that does the software associated with that, but just tracking software. But he's like, it's going crazy. We just talked to Manal and Katerina at McLaren. They were saying audits is like, it's like we might get something approved, get paid. Even if it's a denial, we got overturned. He's like later, but then they'll come back and like do a take back and like
so they come back
auditing it now
13 months later,
or
right?
2 years,
2 years later.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the payers are communicating that, we will grab it. If they are just doing takebacks without communicating that takeback, we can kind of catch it.
Well, they might communicate it through like a letter.
Yeah.
But they already took the money back through a current payment, which I don't see how it's still legal in my mind. I don't think it should be legal.
One of our future metrics will be a negative payment or a payment.
Because you could probably get that.
Right?
We can see that. We see those transactions going through there, right? Oh, we ultimately got paid $10,000. At some point, they took $10,000 back, and then they only paid us $8,000.
So that's it too.
And then all of a sudden, like to me, like that's the silent denial that's not obvious anywhere. And again, that should be tracked. And I also believe, as a commentary, that I think there's a lot of behavior where the payers are trying to take some of these transactions out of the 837, 835 letter cycle, right? So letters, websites where you have to, upload information. To me, like all that is like, look over here while this is happening over here.
One of the people we were in this, I don't know, we were at an HFMA event, like a local one in Michigan, I think. And somebody was asking question around like, well, what do we do? Because we talked to this one insurance company and they keep sending the audits letters to an address that's like some clinic and they said by the time we get it routed
Time's
to
up.
us, the time's up. And she's like, we've told them like 10 times, but what they say is like, well, it's this third party doing the audit. You have to talk to them. And like, we have talked to them. And someone was in the room and they said, who was a lawyer, and he just said, I hate to say it, but you're going to have to sue them. Oh, like that's the way you actually get them get them motivated to do something.
Mhm.
But I was like, what a tactic. Because you know how
Volatile.
complicated it is to send the health system
Yeah.
mail?
Yeah, no, it's
impossible.
it's what takes it out of the normal cycle. And so I think that's the challenge with so many different things. I mean, like take like prior authorization, right? It's another transaction set that's outside of all of this.
Right.
And, we've even started like with this one is like, there's a place in the claim for providers to put their authorization in there, but the percent of the time that we see claims with auths in them from the providers, it's not big.
At least put it in there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Maybe it's
like,
technological. Maybe it's
but it's like like that's self-inflicted.
But those systems are not, like you said, I don't know how connected they are.
Yeah. But I mean, if they're submitting an 837, right, it's like the capacity to put that information in there. What's ridiculous is to say, I'm going to request from you, the payer, to give me, the provider, an authorization. And then I'm going to go through the effort to make sure I'm putting that authorization into the claim that I'm going to send you, which you already given me the authorization. Like that's just so much administrative overhead and burden.
well. Then they deny you for
CYA, it's like
pre-authorization.
all CYA stuff that actually doesn't really shouldn't make a
Yes.
difference, and it does. Ultimately, they should just be able to give you an API where it directly connects. I should be able to get it back. But we've had members in Tarpon. We had a member that spent 2 years on APIs, and they basically
Still didn't do it.
they got like 50% of them to work, get enough data or enough. And they spent a bunch of time and resources thinking this is like the way we're going to. I was like, yeah, I mean, let's try it. And ultimately, you can't get enough, like, they either can't get enough data or it's like not working right. I'm
It
like,
just happens to not work right on their side, right?
of course. Or it's not enough data. It's just, it's just like some data, it's not enough. It doesn't tell you it. Like, this isn't helpful. This is like not helping me.
Well, it's just like the other thing that we see, like the number of times where there's requests for additional documentation. Like all that is that's just throwing the log on the path just to slow down things. Where do you really need it? And does it ultimately get paid? Yes. But it's another form of a delay tactic in terms of payments.
Can you see delay stuff in your data? Like delayed payments, payment time?
Well, yeah, we know when those remits come in
Oh, so
and what codes are.
that's a metric. You use.
Yeah. So we have the whole longitudinal history of that.
Yeah, you can see how long does it
Counter.
take the provider to just bill it. And then once it's billed, once the claim's been submitted, what's the delay between you get a remit? Did it get paid without any denials? And to measure that. And then even if there was a denial, like it's another thing, like half the time there's a denial, you would expect there to be an 837 to correct the denial in the 835. That doesn't always happen. All of a sudden you just see another 835 show up because it probably went outside of the process, right? Letters and emails and phone calls and things of this nature. And all of a sudden a new 835 drops with payment. But my point is we can measure it from no payment to ultimately when there was some form of payment. Yeah. And that's not a metric that it's tracked a lot in our industry.
No, it's much harder. Wow, you guys are like, some of the stuff you said I didn't even understand, but I mean, I feel like it's like you guys are doing good stuff. I mean, it's good work.
I think it's just highlighting what's possible if we as an industry are better stewards with our data, right? And we need to get past hoarding, siloing our data and realize that there is power in the collective, right? Learning from that. And I think it's slowly catching on. I mean, it's decades of behavior that we're trying to overcome.
No, it's totally true. Systems and
Yeah.
infrastructure. Yeah. Well, I applaud you, Travis, Sean. You guys are doing good work. I apologize that I said you were crazy.
I said he was crazy too. Took me a few years.
I mean, really, no, seriously, you kept charging forward when people told you it wasn't possible. I think commend you for that. It's really good stuff. So I'm excited to see. All right, what you guys are doing. Awesome. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's it.